VRs were a new rarity as well as a new concept that was introduced with the reboot. Each set will contain one VR per clan that got support in that set, and that VR would be the focus of the main support line as well as the respective strategy. Now that we've seen all the VRs for Wave 1, let's take a look of which VR stood out from the rest.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Before we start, I want to clarify, I'm only using Wave 1 VRs. So that means all the set up till and including extra booster set 6, Light of Salvation, Logic of Destruction. For this list, I'm looking for VRs that either made a big impact in the meta, defined their clan, have an amazing future-proof design, or are just plain bonkers strong. So without further ado, let's start this list. Azure Dragon is a Nova Grappler VR from the Light of Salvation Logic of Destruction set. This card is its own neat little engine because the moment that you ride him, you can call a unit and immediately attack with it. But not only that, this card creates an Excel circle and it draws you a card. Also with its second skill, you can generate an attack even in the case you couldn't rewrite. So no matter the circumstances, this card will give you value. Nova Grappler was always a level stock ever since the reboot was started thanks to their underwhelming first support wave as well as their VR Perfect Riser. But Azure Dragon changed that completely. This card combines with the new Beastie support makes Nova Grappler a lot more deadlier and a lot more consistent. However, it's still lacking somewhat in the consistency against defensive trigger. Luckily for us, that support comes in the next set, the Heroic Evolution. However, that set belongs to Wave 2. Exculpate was the VR for Royal Paladin in the mini booster Psyqualia's Strife. This card was the first of many things in Standard. It was the first Grade 4, it was the first restandard that reverts back to a Grade 2, and it was the first card that could lose you the game. And all that coupled with a potential board wipe made this card a staple in most Royal Paladin decks that utilizes Blaster Blade in any shape or form. Exculpate is a very interesting VR, where most VRs are important key pieces of the deck and tends to be replaced by better VRs as the deck evolves. Exculpate is exempt from that pattern as it is a standalone card that allows every Royal Paladin deck to have some kind of pushing power, even if you only run it at 1 or 2 copies. And that makes this card pretty damn good. Golden Beast Tamer, the Pillman VR from the first AL4 set. Not only did this VR had an upgraded Maelstrom skill, it also allowed for an amazing multi-attack potential that synergizes with the rest of the clan. This card, together with Alice, were the center line of insane combos that could result in a whopping 8 to 12 attacks in a single turn. And all those attacks could reach high magic numbers thanks to the ability to reuse Excel circles and her first skill. Golden Beast Tamer solidified Pillman as a threat to many players. She is one of the reasons why you don't want to give Pillman too much counterblast. The only downside to this card is that it synergizes so well with the rest of the clan and it is such an integral part of the deck that it's really hard to get a new powerful VR that replaces it that isn't outright busted. Look at what happened with Gun Salute. Yeah, I know, that card exists. The Tonics Drill Dragon from Miyagi Academy Cardfight Club was the only Narukami VR in Wave 1. This card allowed an Exo clan to restand on a more consistent basis. But not only that, this card plays perfectly against the clan's weaknesses. If your opponent didn't call units, you would get free drive checks and attacks. This card also has a built-in bind effect and is the only restander that could restand without minusing. Not counting Dayusha as it's technically not a restander. Drill is an amazing card as you're going to pressure your opponent in wasting cards that are going to be binded. And having a free restander on turn 3 for the Exo clan is pretty damn good. It also synergizes really well with Phoenix as you bind in the attack phase, which can result in giving you even more attacks for an Exo clan on the Exo circles. And the fact that you can counter the Zanbaku stun lock by just restanding this unit and not attacking makes this card pretty damn versatile in any kind of meta. Dragonic Waterfall is the first VR for Kagero from Unite Team Q4. This is the only Kagero card that can retire something for free without a certain criteria. This card can generate insane power thanks to its own skill, but also with the inclusion of force markers. This paired with the Sentinel Guard Restrict made Waterfall a benchmark for many cards to come. I talked about this card for many times on the channel, and although I have my issues with it, it was thanks to this card that Kagero stayed somewhat relevant all the way through the year before they got some decent support. Unlike another clan that I already talked about in this video. Imperial Daughter was the first VR for Oracle Think Tank from the Unite Team Q4 set. This card can scry the top 2 cards and draws you a card, and late game it can also gain 15 game power and an extra crit. This alone makes this card very powerful in OTT, but it can also give 6k to any unit, which can turn itself from a 32k attack to a 38k attack or a 70k rearguard column into a 23k column. Those are perfect magic numbers against a force clan. This all combined together with the other support cards defined the early meta of the reboot. Imperial Daughter is an amazing card for OTT. It did everything that you wanted from a main Vanguard, and the fact that you can splash it in any kind of build make this card even more amazing. But just like Golden Beast Tamer, it's really hard to stray away from this card without making a busted new VR. Look at Pentagonia Magus for example. It didn't really do that much in terms of the meta. Ultimate Dimensional Robogreat Dayusha from the Champions of Asia circuit was the only VR for Dimension Police in Wave 1. This card allows for a Force Clan to swing twice with a Vanguard in a single turn, and both attacks would swing with insane high numbers. This card gives your units a pretty big power boost. The moment that you ride it, and together with an extra 10k and the extra force markers, you get a total of plus 50k power onto the field. Ultimate Dimensional Robogreat Dayusha was the card that makes Dimensional Police deadly, because it could come out of nowhere and rank up the damage really quickly. The fact that this card isn't restricted in any way makes this a staple for Dimensional Police for years to come. I mean, have you seen a new support? That's going to be dangerous with Dayusha. Or should I say, glorious. Dueling Dragon Zanbaku from Strongest Team AL4 was the first VR for Murakumo. Zanbaku gave an Exo clan the ability to plus and search out specific unit, but on top of all that, it stopped your opponent from rewriting new units. This turned out to be very deadly in a format where a lot of decks focus on rewriting Vanguards to activate their skills, as well as gaining more gift markers. This card was also part of a combo that could even stop your opponent from standing their Vanguard. All this made Zanbaku the meta killer for the format, and together with Pillman made Axel for the first time since the reboot an actual viable strategy. Zanbaku, that one VR I rated badly. The very first VR with a 3-star rating, because it's still an okay card, it still has a very strong potential. But the fact that it's easy to work around, that you are forced to use suboptimal rearguards in your deck, and the fact that it has no consistency and has a drawback that you cannot use skills excessively as with any other VR. It works not with the clan, it works somewhat against the clan. How did that turn out? But all jokes aside, this card changed a lot in terms of pacing for Standard. Most games you just keep going face until your opponent is X6. Very rarely was damage denying a thing, but this card established that concept for Standard. But unlike the other VRs on this list, this one can be replaced by a new VR, as the Zanbaku engine is a standalone concept that doesn't really synergize as well with what the clan wants to do in the first place. Incandescent Lion Blonde Hazel from Ultra Rare Miracle Collection was the first VR for Gold Paladin. This VR introduced us to the great skipping in Standard, which could result in fast early aggression. It also had the option to multi-attack by calling units mid-battle from the hand, which makes it hard for your opponent to guard your attacks as they don't know what's going to happen next. Blonde Hazel was an okay card for Gold Paladin, but definitely not enough for the clan. Luckily, Ravenhair fixed that within the next support wave. But the reason why it's so high up the list is thanks to its effect on premium. Because the old Criff exists, make the superior right all the more consistent, and thanks to the new stride ruling, made this interaction all the more problematic. And yeah, Ravenhair also contributed on the premium side of things. Let's hope the new Hazel doesn't make things worse. Who am I kidding at this Bushiroad? Good luck premium players! With Blonde Hazel number 2, a card which invoked a spree of people asking for a ban on Criff as a starter for Gold Paladin, makes you wonder which card is on number 1. What stood out more than a card which forced people to ask for the banning of a certain card in the format? Well, that's this card. Olaf King Death Anchor was the first VR for Dark Regulars from Strongest Team AL4. This card can generate a high powered attack with a good filled soul, but with the right soul build up, you can rewrite any grade 3 from your soul to unleash a deadly attack with an additional crit. This was also the first superior right skill in a Protect clan, which allows you to gain 2 Protect markers in a single turn while multi-attacking at the same time. The fact that this card isn't restricted in any shape or form makes it a very strong card that can only become stronger the more grade 3s are introduced. Olaf King is a very strong card in terms of potential. However, in standard it's yet to be fully utilized. We have great targets now like Dentarian and Master of 5th, but still not the perfect match that we want. But in premium though, they got the complete opposite. This card was the biggest problem for the format ever since the reboot started, and probably still till this day. It was so problematic that Bushiroad decided to limit an enigmatic assassin to 1. For those who aren't familiar with the combo, it's basically resulted in the fact that for every counterblast you had 2 rearguard column attacks that will hit for 40k and a Vanguard attack that would swing for 40k or higher with a crit. And every time you do a round of this, you will get 1 Protect marker and 1 extra card in hand. Oh, and did I also mention that every Vanguard attack has a twin drive? Yeah, pretty nuts. And to top it all off, you could do it while your opponent was still at grade 2. So without a doubt, Olaf King was the strongest VR for wave 1. Maybe not in standard, but in overall impact in the game, there was no one that came close. Well, maybe Hazel, but he is trying his best, but he ain't there just yet. But now I pass the question on to you. What is your favorite VR from wave 1? Which one do you think is the most powerful, the uniqueness, the strongest boss monster of boss monsters? Which one do you think should have made it on the list? Let me know all your thoughts and ideas in the comments down below, as I'm very curious of what your opinion is about all the boss monsters for the first wave of the reboot. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters over at Patreon for making this video possible. If you do want to support the channel, then head over to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Timeleaf, and I'll see you guys in the next one.